It's been a couple of years since I wrote my book, Data Culture. And in that time, I've been thinking, does data culture matter anymore? I mean, a lot of data teams are quite mature. They're doing really good work. You've now got really good tools like AI tools and automation tools, and even sort of very low-code, no-code tools that do a lot of the data workflow for you, all the way from ingesting the data, so the ETL process, the data engineering, all the way to transformation, and then, utilization, leveraging of that data, execution of that data. And so teams seem to be working very quite slick with all these applications and tools. So I sort of asked a few friends and worked with or some of the clients that I'm working with, and sort of said to them, does data culture matter to your organization? Is it something that is something that you care about or think about? And interestingly, most people have come back and said, look, all these tools that we're now using and stuff hasn't actually solved our cultural problem, our data culture. And one of the reasons is that if you have a bad data culture, buying those tools just amplifies that bad data culture. Now, in my book, I provide a lot of strategies to develop a good data culture. But in my discussions, the things that I'm also learning about, and the things that I guess if I was to write my book again, I'd add onto, are things like, are the right incentives in place for an organization to have a good data culture so they can be data driven? Are the behaviors that the people in the organization exhibit, do they reinforce a good data culture? And then finally, the other thing is, have they given the data team decision authority? This is a term I picked up from a LinkedIn connection of someone I met many years ago called Eric, who runs his own data consultancy out of Singapore. And he talks about decision authority, which is, have you given your data team the ability to influence decisions? Because if you haven't, then you're going to end up with still a very bad data culture. So what I'm seeing is that those organizations that had a bad data culture, they thought they could fix it by just buying AI tools or automation tools or low-code, no-code tools. But what they're finding is that actually these tools are just amplifying the bad data culture. And in fact, it's probably making it worse, because people are moving or able to move faster in how they operate because they're able to do things. So if they've got bad practices that doesn't lead to a good data culture, then those things are just being amplified by these tools. Whereas if you have a good data culture, you'll find that, yes, these tools are really useful. They provide an element of efficiency and speed that probably weren't available to those companies before, but it doesn't replace the people and how they operate within that organization. That the business has incentives to listen to the data team, or listen to what the data has to say, because strategic KPIs are determined by measurable outcomes. Or the data team has decision authority, which means that they can make recommendations, or they can influence decisions. So therefore, they still feel empowered to be part of the decision-making process, rather than just people who execute now these fancy tools. The other thing to note is that when you are building a good data culture, and you think that if I reduce the number of people in my team by using these AI tools or these automation tools, then I can actually control the culture. But what you find is that those small individuals actually become more extreme in bad data culture if you have bad data culture. But actually the opposite is also true. If they practice very good, if they exhibit very good behaviors that lead to good data culture, you'll amplify that, or it will go to that extreme. But if the people you have already exhibit bad data culture, so for example, they're pretty much going, I'm just going to give you the report and the numbers, you decide what to do with it, it's not my problem, then the AI and the tools will just make them do that faster, okay? And so you won't fix that problem. You won't think that if I give them these tools, they will now have the time to do the thinking and become part of the decision-making process. But if the behaviors haven't changed, then that AI tool is not going to change that behavior. That's something that the organization has to change within the data team, but also within the wider organization. The other thing that I actually heard from a recent CEO is that they've deployed a lot of AI tools within their organization. A lot of it's to create increase in productivity, especially in the data team, and not just in coding, but in other areas in terms of documentation, that kind of stuff. Also in meetings, writing notes and stuff. It's amazing how much time is saved if you get an AI scribe to transcribe a meeting note, so the data team then don't have to go back, replay, what was said in the meeting. They can literally take it from that AI scribe and play it back to the business. But anyway, the CEO has deployed these AI tools with the data team as well as with the wider organization. And when we were talking about the data team, the thing he said to me was, look, what's really become noticeable is that those people, those analysts, which actually are quite a large number in his organization, who are results and outcome driven, have actually flourished. They've actually, that free time that those tools have now given them has led them to engage more with the business, has got them to think more deeply about the analysis and how it applies to the business. And in fact, some of them have tried to learn how other parts of the business operate and try to make suggestions and recommendations on how the data that they have or the analysis that they've done can impact that part of the business, and try to be a true partner to different departments. So it seems that data culture does matter more than it did probably 2 years ago. And one of the reasons is that, these tools that allow people to work more efficiently and more faster actually just amplify bad data culture. But as I've also discussed, also do amplify good data culture.